Michael Kors was proud to be gay, described by many as a little sweetheart. At 18 years old, Michael was a trainee hairdresser from Wiston, Merseyside. On the 24th of July 2008, he left his family home and never returned. After a drink with his friends at a local pub, he went to a house party. As Michael slept upstairs, three young men, aged 18 and 19, went through Michael's phone. They found images of Michael with his boyfriend. Michael was then subject to a brutal and vicious attack. He was punched. He was kicked. A cigarette lighter was used to burn the hairs on his legs. Threats were made to rip out his piercings with a knife. He was beaten round the head with a heavy history textbook, beaten with so much force that the book's spine broke. Michael was 5'4" and weighed just under 7 stone. "You little queer faggot," was shouted at Michael as he was attacked. Afterwards, one of the young men said, "He's a little queer, he deserves it." Michael's bleeding body was dumped outside in the street. He was taken to Wiston Hospital. He had suffered multiple fractures to his face, including a fractured skull, extensive bleeding, and a swollen brain. 9 days later, Michael's family took the heartbreaking decision to turn off his life support machine. He died on the 2nd of August 2008. Michael was murdered because he was gay. 6 years to the day we remember Michael.
I spoke at Pride on the steps of St George's Hall and made a few people cry, apparently, because it was the first time that an out gay Lord Mayor had ever got on the steps and done something like that. It's just normal, it's just us. And we are just bloody normal, but it's not just about being shared, it's what we can do to make a difference. So this project is led by the Michael Kors Foundation.
I was outed really by a cousin, a lovely cousin that was more like a sister to me. She revelled in anything that was a little bit different in the family, and she would always exaggerate a point. One day she'd met James and said, "There's something more there. I know that there's something more, darling. I'm sure that there's something going on between you two." In the end, she niggled and niggled and niggled until I told her. And within a week, she'd been up to see Mum and Dad and told Mum and Dad, not in a malicious way, more in an excited sort of way. So I was more or less outed. And I was 40? Yeah, around 40, 41 at the time.
Mine was slightly different because I after we sort of got together, I was getting divorced, and I was speaking to my mum and said, "You know, there is something a bit more between me and Gary, Mum." "Well, I didn't think so, love." "Right. What should I do about my dad?" Because my dad was this big puffs on telly, don't like him.
Oh,
horrible.
God, yeah. My dad was the same.
"I'll tell you, Dad." And Clifford, I've got a brother who's 20 years younger than me, who's a big rugby playing type. So I was terrified before I was out, when I was still married. One thing my wife used to always say, "If I ever find out you're gay, I'm going to tell your father." That was the big threat. But the funniest thing was, once he met him, they got on like a house on fire, absolutely no problem at all. And my brother, 20 years younger, we went actually out for one night with them. We were saying about, did Mum tell you about us being gay? Yeah, she said, "Got something to tell you about your James." "Right, what's that, Mum?" "He's gay." "Well, no shit, Sherlock. My brother, who's a hairdresser, plays Damien Pantomime, makes all his own frocks, gay. Fucking hell."
Well, I've had sort of two coming out experiences. Like, I did one when I think I was 14 or 15. Like, it was sort of when I first sort of started feeling like the sort of that I might be gay. I had like a friend, and like I was speaking to him. Like, I wrote my mum a letter, saying all this in like this letter. And when I first said, like, I think I might be bi, is what I said to my mum, because I didn't want to go like the full, I just wanted to sort of come out a little bit. on that day she was like, right, okay, just sort of sat there and like didn't say nothing to me. And like a couple of weeks later, like I asked my mum if I could bring like my friend around with me, and I don't think she sort of clocked on to what, like who she was and whatever. And but like once she did, she sort of like she really kicked off and like sent her home and stuff, and like really didn't take it very well. And like for that first time, we really like quite fell out, and it just sort of wasn't spoken about for years and years, and like it just sort of carried on. And then when I think I was 21 when I came out properly. Like she'd always knew, but we just never had that conversation. And it was when I split up with my girlfriend, and it was just like the fact that I needed my mum. I was like, Mum, I needed to tell you something. She was like, it's okay. Like, Mum, she's like, are you heartbroken? I was like, yeah. She was like, is it blah? And I was like, yeah. Like, how did you know? She's like, Emma, I've always known. Like, and it was just been absolutely fine since then. So my dad knows, and he like I told him like the second time, and it was really, like he's quite like an older generation. He's like coming up to 60, so I was quite nervous about telling my dad. Like my mum did the thing where she's like, I'll tell your dad. I sort of had like experience of like both ends of the spectrum, from when I was younger to like them being older.
It's basically the problem with children's age when they're at school is that they believe they've got no future because they're gay. They actually believe, I will not get the job because they'll sense I'm gay interviews. I won't get the promotions because they'll sense I don't know I'm gay. Can't come out, can't live a life.
Well, actually, I first realised or thought I was bisexual when I was 14. And me and one of my friends at school decided to take our friendship to the next level, and she was a girl, and she finished it because for her it didn't feel right, but for me something did. And so I came out to all my friends that I was bisexual and I liked both girls and boys. Then went very backwards and inward on myself because of bullying and stuff like that within school. Forgot about relationships, and then it was only until I'd finished my uni, finished my PGCE, and so I was about 21, 22 when I actually broke up a long-term relationship with a guy that I was with to sort of say, no, this is actually really me. Actually, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian, and women are who I am attracted to.
I don't think I had the courage to come out to my parents, but I think if I had done, they'd probably been all right about it. You know, I know my father had a very, funny sense of humour. He'd probably say, you look awful, come on, and take me out shopping, buy me, fur coat or something stupid,
With regards to relationships, I was quite a late starter, to be honest. I had my first relationship with a boy when I was 17, and my first relationship with a girl when I was 20. And kind of, to be honest, the whole LGBT sort of labelling, I don't agree with, because I think you should just be able to love who you're attracted to and be in love with who you want to be in love with.
Both our parents are very
Parents were really good, and then
good, but our dads were both
Yeah.
came from backgrounds. Like my dad was a docker, still had a wash in the sink in his string vest and that every night. My brother was a bouncer, your brother rugby and bouncing, your dad big bloke. They were all big blokes in the family. And then there was me, the fashion designer. I'm really fortunate, extremely fortunate, that my son is gay as well. And my son came out when he was 16. So there was already Philip in the family that kind of trod in before me. I heard Dad say, oh no, not another one in the family. But again, it wasn't, it was done very tongue-in-cheek, and he laughed.
he's got a gay nephew as well.
But gay nephew, it's in the family. So it was really quite easy. Dad was great, Mum was fine. She said, please don't tell anybody in the village, Gary. Please, you mustn't. And within a week, she'd been to the shop and told everybody. So the whole village knew anyway.
They're just really happy for me, being happy in a relationship with somebody that cares about me. Relationships are all about trust, respect and commitment. And if you get those three elements in any relationship, whether it be a sexual relationship or a friend relationship, I think then that's the most important thing.
I didn't sort of come out to my friends, I just sort of introduced them to like my girlfriends at the time. They're like, right, okay. Like they didn't bat an eyelid really.
The first time, my mother's response was, it's just a phase, you'll get over it. And the second time, they didn't speak to me for a year and a half. But it took the person that I was in a civil partnership with when we first got together, it took for her to kind of say, look, you need to make a move and get in touch with your parents, because she had a really good relationship with her family. And so it was a case of her saying, well, I want this for you, so you need to try and rebuild things with your parents. And actually it was my mum that delivered the blessing of our civil partnership ceremony at the time. So things had progressed massively from a year and a half of hearing nothing to her being happy and wanting to do that for the day. Most of my friends were really supportive. There's only one that really sticks out in my mind who, we'd grown up together, we'd got baptised in church together. I'd kind of moved away from the church, but she was still very much involved. And when I took my partner to her wedding, there was kind of a segregation of people from church and all the people we grew up with. Some were just like, oh yeah, hi, nice to meet you, we're really glad Emma's really happy. And others refused to even sit on the same table as us. And when she came to our civil partnership, she turned up with her husband. They made a few crass comments about the type of ceremony that it was, and then left, and I never heard from her again.
My brother, although he's gay, he didn't really approve of me being trans. He said, why don't you be gay like the rest of us? And I said, I'm not gay, I'm trans. Yeah. All the people from the motor club didn't want to know. In fact, they were quite nasty. Other friends, one friend in particular, went to school with, known him for years, and he was great. But another friend who used to hang around, again went to school with, known him for 40 odd years, he was really nasty. He called me a paedophile and everything. Some family were okay, others didn't really want to know. It does happen, you don't get invited to things, but one of my aunties was very good,
And I would like you to draw the person that you fear. Does anyone want to explain who you heard and just go through your drawings for us? Anyone at all?
I would like to apologise to this person. Susan Boyle. I know it looks nothing like it.
No, it does.
That is what came to mind.
Right, okay, so Susan Boyle says what's the character. Okay, Penny, what about you?
I thought some sort of opera singer, when you opera singers got, the type of long gown. And,
yeah.
A big person or a small person?
Yeah, probably quite big actually. Usually tend to be, voiceover.
Boxing. Emma?
So, like a dead pretty female, with long hair.
You got like a Catherine Jenkins sort of figure in your head? Okay, I can see it.
Exactly right.
Can't you just see?
Okay. Yeah, I'm loving the skirts. Okay, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Okay.
Simple, sparkly.
Is she English?
Yes, I thought she was English.
Okay, anyone on different from English?
I possibly thought maybe, Italian or something.
The opera together?
Yeah.
Okay. James, have you got similar?
I sort of a female, like an older type person though.
Yeah. Any particular culture or?
No.
Hair colour? What did you see when you were drawing her? She blonde,
I think Susan Boyle was great.
long hair, short hair.
Yeah.
Don't know, I didn't really focus on the features really.
No.
Just I've got this older person.
Okay. George?
Mine's just someone who's actual art, who's a typical stereotyped opera singer.
It's very buxom,
Yeah.
diamonds,
Yeah.
are you dripping?
We're not
Can I
asking
turn mine over?
Yes, go on.
A bloke.
A bloke. Okay, and what's your bloke like?
Quite slim.
Right.
Is it Farron?
It isn't.
It's someone playing Farron, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Are we ready?
Are we ready for who it is? Derek Lee Ragan, he's actually from the Bronx in New York, and he was brought up around rap music, he was brought up in poverty, he was brought up with very, very few things to, to aspire to, and yet what on earth made him become that beautiful, stunning voice? With all of the challenges and the brick walls that he's going to come up against, what on earth made him become the person who he is today.
I've been mugged. I was picked up by someone when I was about 16 or 17 and strung along and basically ended up had the crap beaten out of me and my jacket and wallet and everything stolen. So yeah, I was targeted because of what I was. So yes.
I mean, my son had to leave his home and his town when he was 16 because of the constant beatings and spitting, people spitting at him, and in the end he said, like, Dad, I can't take it anymore. The last 6 months of his school, he had to be escorted to school before everybody else got there, and he had to stay in a room until everybody had left, and then he was taken home because of how he was bullied. And at 16 he left home.
I've been subjected to like passing comments and like people saying things and like having a go with like the stuff I wear. Like one time when I was in town, like I was just walking down the street and someone came up to me and said, "You dirty dyke," and I was like, "What's it got to do with you? Like, why is it up to you?" If it's not someone saying something to you, it's like the looks that they give you. Like at the workshop, I said like I was like, to do with my like sexuality, I was completely accepted. Like it was not a problem to me. But and then when you sit and think about it, you think I'll go around like go to the shops or something, and I wouldn't hold my girlfriend's hand because of the looks that might get off people. You see like straight couples doing it every day, and no one bats an eyelid. Like I wouldn't dream of doing that because I know the looks you get off people. It's like it's as if you get looks like this, you're less than human.
I suppose I have, even though at the time I didn't really call it that. I didn't call it hate crime, but I was in supply teaching in a school only 3-4 weeks ago, and I was teaching a class of English. Didn't really know the kids. I'd been in the school for a couple of days, but you don't really know who the kids don't really know faces unless they're troublemakers. Then you get to know them really quickly. I kept 2 lads behind because they wouldn't stop talking, and I just thought, well, you've wasted my time in the lesson, so I'm going to keep you back and waste your time at the end of the day. And one of their mates came in from another classroom to find out where they were and when they were going to be let out. And as I kind of said, right, boys, you can go, and turned my back on them as they were walking out the door, one of them called me a bitch and one of them yelled dyke. So when I went back in on the Monday, I made a point of finding the head teacher. And so I had a conversation with him, and he promised me that it was being dealt with and things like that. And then I had this class again on the Tuesday. And at the beginning of the lesson, they all came in, sat down, ready for the register. And all of a sudden, one lad just stood up at the front of the class, went, "I'm not in this class," got to the door, turned around and yelled dyke at me in front of the entire class, and then walked off. And I had no idea who he was, what he looked like, but it was the same kid from the Friday, so he'd purposefully come into the classroom, sat down, to make that personal attack on me, if you like, and then leave again.
I haven't actually experienced any hate crime. I've kind of witnessed a couple of other people being shouted at in the streets, which just seems really random because, you know, it's just a inane observation that somebody makes that they think that they need to shout about. And what pleasure they get from that, I don't know.
Bricks through the windows, called a freak as you walk down the street. And then, a classic one, they blew me car up. I was getting ready to go out, and I was half dressed, and just done my nails, just getting ready. And there's this big, huge bang. So I rang the fire brigade, and they come out, and they thought it was a big joke, and all the kids were all shouting obscenities and stuff. And the fire brigade just thought they were laughing at me. You get young people getting kicked out of the house, you know, attacked, you know. We've done quite a lot of work with people from other countries, and I mean, threatened murder and everything. One guy actually, he come over from Libya, and because they would have killed him. I'm in the process of buying a boat. Unfortunately, now. This is another type of hate crime. It's not what you think hate crime, like what we were talking about, what you get, bricks through your window and all that sort of stuff. This is a major insurance company who refusing to pay me money. They've actually broken the law by asking for things they shouldn't ask for. And I've actually missed out. I was really upset yesterday because the boat I wanted to buy had been sold again. But I can't buy the boat until I get the money. No, it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of money, which you can't access. And that's a different type of hate crime. But you do get, I've been to interviews, and, you know, you walked in the room, Neil, and one major charity I went to, which I won't name, but, you know, I was at the interview, and I was like, why am I, you know, it's really getting really bad, and I just thought, should I walk out or what? No, I'll stick it out. But I've found that, you know, and getting employment, you know, it can be very difficult.
I was part of Hate Crime, which was front page of the Echo 3 years ago when I was beat up, badly. And they didn't find the person that took it, but it was me and Sian, we were both beat up within the same week, 2 drag queens beat up. And with me, I remember it was in front of the Echo, I didn't speak to his dad really anyway, he pulled up, he was like, why are you on that, why are you doing that, attention seeker, blah, blah, blah. But then the next week, I was in work and I thought, you know what, I'm going to work. And I didn't dwell on it, and I thought, I could sit in and go knock over house again. But it happened, and I went, no, I'm going to wear bigger heels and a bigger wig this time. You know what I mean?
Didn't have a choice but report it really, because my wallet and everything had gone. I was in the centre of town and I lived in Orton, so I had to get home somehow. So the only way to get home is from my mum. First thing my mum says is, you report it. And they've still got my clothes. I should put in a complaint really.
The police have?
Yeah.
What did you come home in?
I had to take all my clothes back the next day.
I see.
Some very, very fashionable platform shoes. Cost a fortune. They're still there. It was one of those, they asked the questions they needed to ask, but no, that was it. No follow-up, nothing.
I think a lot of people don't come forward because they don't think they'll be believed in one sense, and then I think some people don't come forward because they don't think it's a big thing because they're so used to it. Like I'm so used to people being like, oh, you dyke, or lesbian, like, why are you wearing that? I'm so used to it, and so used to the looks that you just sort of ignore it now.
Reflecting back on my own actions, I probably should have reported it, because unless you've got the evidence there, then you can't make a case, can you? So.
I'd be more open to, but I still don't think I would.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
I think we have to, not just for us, but for all the other people that are like us. We owe it to them as well as to ourselves, and to young people that have not come out yet. I mean, you should. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I've never ever been a victim of anything like that. I've been very, very fortunate. I mean, we've had the odd bits and pieces said to us at work.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes in jest. Sometimes it leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I mean, at the moment, the worst thing is my students say, "Oh God, that's so gay," and I just stop, I jump on it. And I know some people say, "Oh, they don't mean it," but I always think that there could be somebody in class that day that's not come out, that every time they hear the word gay is in a derogatory sort of. It's not on, no. So I don't allow anything like that. I think we were out once where we were in a pub once when we first got together, and a lad went, he was looking at us all the time, he was with his girlfriend, and he was across the other side of the pub, and then as he left and went past the window, he blew a kiss and he went like that as he went past. And I think that was the only thing really nasty that's ever happened to you and I together. Different
I think people like us, we need to report things because we're in a position where we can deal with it. And, we're both out, we're in a stable relationship, and we're mature enough to know what our rights are. So if we go along to the police and they don't treat us properly, we know to complain.
Yeah.
Whereas other people who have perhaps not come out, who've tried to hide it, they'd be really worried because, you know, first thing that's going to happen is they think everyone's going to know about it. And I remember years ago, and it is years ago, when there was a murder down at Ospool Prom, and this poor bloke he was married, he wasn't.
He was
out,
a grandad,
and he was a grandad, and it was all over the Echo, practicing
terrible.
homosexual.
It was disgusting.
It was his family were having to read that in the, you know, and it was talking about him like he was rubbish and scum.
It was heartbreaking,
and it was absolutely awful. So I think the more you can do to sort of get rid of that, the better.
It is good to see in the local news and stuff when people are prosecuted for the crimes that they do. But it just tends to be the really, really bad ones, which I know I'll say is a shame, because it's a shame because the lesser crimes don't seem to be punished, and they should be. Part of me thinks it's because it could possibly not be followed up, and the person that actually makes the initial action could ever be traced. But then again, part of me does think that if something isn't reported and people are not made aware that there's an issue, and a conversation is then started to try and resolve the issue, then in that respect, probably I reflect.
Education.
Yeah.
Education all the way. And
Well, it's
media helping.
Yeah.
I think media are really quite good at the moment. In general, the media, I mean, it's very different to the early 70s when we were I was a teenager, you were probably married with kids then. However...
Grandkids.
Yeah, you did then. But in the early 70s, things were very different.
Education, people need to know that it's normal, like it happens, it's just who you are. Like why should I have to come out as being gay? People don't come out as being straight, so it's just people need to start to learn that it's normal.
When we were born, it was still illegal to be gay. In the 70s, growing up in the 70s, I was so frightened, felt so lonely. I thought I was the only one in the whole of my town, nobody to talk to, frightened and keeping a guard up constantly at school, trying to play rugby when I wanted to sit with the girls and gossip, trying to talk about football when really I wanted to talk about my platform shoes and Mark Bolan. Oh, glamorous and gorgeous and full of fun and vivacious.
Long suffering.
He doesn't mean that. Yeah.
For having made a change to one person's life, even if it was just one person, just by being there as a support or help or guidance or educational point of view in terms of making their life easier, in just simply being able to accept who they are.
Just quietly going about my business.
Top barrister, top footballer. Don't know. For being me, I guess. It's the main one.
How important is your sexuality to you? And like 1 being not very important at all, to being 10 being, oh my god, I can't think of anything else apart from my sexuality. Over there, you can see our lovely little washing line. And I want you to put it in order of 0 in this end, 10.
The sexuality one, I put 3.
Okay.
It's not generally something I kind of think about really, but maybe occasionally if we're going out somewhere, or you might kind of subconsciously think, you know, is it safe to go there, or do we need to behave in a certain way, or that kind of thing. The gender one, I was going to put 1 originally because it's like it just is, never really something thought about. But
I consider myself a straight female.
Yeah.
Other people may not consider me that.
Right.
I also get taken for a lesbian because I have a friend who... and we always think we're both lesbians, but we're not. we differ on the type of men we like, but we... and I think for the gender, I put 10 because it is a big issue for me.
Okay, and it's something that's about your identity, obviously, yeah? And
No, I come to terms with it, but other people have.
Yeah.
I'm straight.
Yeah.
That's who I am. I've never thought about it. It just doesn't involve in anything in my thoughts. I'm 10 from the gender.
Really?
Yeah.
I have 5 for both of mine.
Okay.
My sexuality has never been an issue to me, but and obviously people just take me as I am. But sometimes I often I'll be sat at home or whatever and think, what if I was straight, or what if
I think some of the things is, you know, the shock horror thing about the Michael case. I think that is a very powerful tool if that is actually taken into schools. And it wasn't that he was going round sort of flaunting being gay and snogging with his boyfriend in the kitchen and doing it in people's faces. They'd actually stolen him. You should be able to if you want to, but he wasn't. And they'd stolen his phone out of his pocket and gone through his phone and found pictures of his boyfriend and then decided to beat the crap out of him. That is a really powerful message, and to get that to people
I think we need to look at the bigger picture as well. I think prejudice of any kind is learnt through family and people around you as you're growing up, and it doesn't start when you get to 11, 12, 13. It starts at 2, and you know, if you're surrounded by a dad or a mum that says, oh, look at the state of that, or says really derogatory things about anything like that, I think that's where we need to start. So we should be looking now at places like play schools and having lots of lovely books, My Two Dads, My Two Mums, you know, they should have all that. I think, and 2-year-olds should be looking at that.
At school, I think that is where you need to start, because this playground mentality of the way people speak to each other in playground, kids can be so evil and so cruel.
But where's that come from?
Where families, you know, it does, doesn't it? You know, it does come from there. But you see, I believe how you are as a child and what you experience as a child makes you are as an adult.
It's a lack of understanding, and that's a lack of understanding because nobody's ever talked to them about sexuality or anything like that, and it's just a pure lack of understanding. And if anything, if they have a real deep negative view on homosexuality, it's normally come from the home life and the home background and somebody else kind of constantly having that opinion, and therefore them hearing that opinion.
I don't think enough is done in schools these days. Like educational topics around LGBT lifestyles and stuff like that. I know going back to like when I was at school, nothing was ever spoken about. You know, you get all the normal sex education, and you don't get anything on sex between two men, or you know, things like that.
No, like I know there's loads, but I can't name them.
I am aware that there is an LGBT hate crime police officer because she's my friend, but I don't really know what they do, where you would go to find them or anything like that. So if I was going to report something, I would probably just go directly to her and say that this has happened, what should I do? I wouldn't really know as an organisation where to find.
I don't know what services are available, but that's probably down to my own lack of awareness in respect of I've not had to seek them out for myself.
Like we've got Pride, we need more of that. There's one day of the year where you celebrate it. Why not have more, or more advertising of it, all this stuff and things like that.
I don't know if it'd be good to have some kind of known drop-in session somewhere where you know that at a specific time on a specific day, even if it was like once a fortnight or once a week, for a couple of hours, you know that there was somewhere that you could go to talk to somebody about issues that have arisen. Even if it was just like I went and spoke to them about what had happened with me in the school and just said, you know, have I done the right thing just by talking to the head teacher, or actually should I have dealt with it in a different way? Because I did actually then end up going back to that school for one day and then decided I didn't want to go back again because I still felt uneasy in the school. Yeah, which kind of really disappointed me because I'm not a person to kind of really try and let things get to me. I try and do the best of, in the words of Frozen, let it go.
I think it depends on what part of the country you're in. I know London seems to be kind of all over different support services, but then again you'd expect that from a capital city with the diversity that it has. I am aware of quite a lot of charities working in eradicating homophobia and transphobia, and it's those charities are getting further out into the country as well. which is good. So in respect of that, there are some good services around, but I think that there needs to be they need to be advertised more, and sort of people made aware more of that they're there and what they do offer as well. But I would hope that there was something along the lines of a phone number that people could ring, an email that people could send to, but then that they'd actually get a response as well. So it's not just sort of information going in one way, it's a two-way thing.
I think people today are more likely to go to certain places and...
Well, I think what it is a proper victim support service. It's getting the confidence back up, it's someone to talk to. The Sigma unit were brilliant, but and I've helped, but you need dedicated professionals. And going to the court, now the courts are very good. They will, you can put screens up if you don't want to go. They'd even take you to the court. I know a lot of trans women, been in the army, had 3 marriages. I thought it in my way, I was a boat mechanic, I was a rally driver. I was really into He-Man type sports because you fight it. Yeah. And you get a lot of trans people who do fight it. I've got a friend who's trans, she was a Hell's Angel.
I make them laugh.
People like me because I'm approachable and honest and open.
I'm fab. I don't know. There was definitely a struggle when I was at school, because when I was at school, Section 28 was in place. So there was very much, although I was being bullied and I went through issues of self-harm and stuff like that, there was no support that came from school, no visible support that came from school, because the teachers were scared to have those conversations because effectively they weren't allowed to, and they were fearful of the repercussions. And it was only because they were two very much out and proud lesbians in 6th form that when I was in GCSE, we kind of got to know each other really well, and they were kind of like my support, and I would go to them to talk about stuff, and they would tell me where any groups or stuff were in and around town where I grew up. But I think my struggle came from my mum's religious background, because my mum had me go to Christian counselling.
I think we need to look at the bigger picture as well. I think prejudice of any kind is learnt through family and people around you as you're growing up, and it doesn't start when you get to 11, 12, 13. It starts at 2, and if you're surrounded by a dad or a mum that says, oh, look at the state of that, or says really derogatory things about anything like that, I think that's where we need to start.
I think it's changing. I don't think it's completely changed. But I do think if I was at school now, I would find it a lot easier to come out and stay out. And I think potentially my parents would find it easier for me to come out as well, because one of my mum's best friends, her daughter, who I'd kind of seen grow up, she's come out as being lesbian, and it just was not a big deal at all, and she still goes along to the same church that I used to go to, and it's not an issue. Yet for me, that was a big deal, and I very much felt ousted by the church at the time.
I don't know what services are available, but that's probably down to my own lack of awareness in respect of I've not had to seek them out for myself.
We've got young friends who've never been through. They've been illegal and all the rest of it.
Very blasé, aren't they?
Very blasé. Can't understand the need for pride or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just don't, and they're very
Another
derogatory about
anybody that's effeminate.
Anyone who's very
because
that's
they're
bringing
both quite
gay
butch
into
until they've had a
disrepute.
few to drink.
Yeah.
But yeah, they think that anybody that's slightly effeminate, it gives gays a bad name and things like that. So we have quite a lot of not rows, but we really do have intense conversations. Because the only thing I can say to them is that they obviously didn't grow up at a time that we did.
Yeah.
I would want to know where his education of homosexuality had come from, and if it was something that he'd learned from home, and to know why he'd made those prejudgments on me, but then want to know why he'd reacted in the way that he had. I wouldn't have a go at him or shout at him or anything like that. I would want to understand where he was coming from and then try and make him understand how that has then left me feeling, in the hopes that he wouldn't do it again to anybody else.
I think sometimes with trans people, the girl type, there's a lot of trans people very, very girly, you get the difference between the transvestites, because trans covers a great big umbrella. Somebody like me, and there's somebody, transvestites, and they're usually the ones that cause all the trouble, to be honest, and the other transvestites who live, they'll go out dressed up quite outrageously, then go back to their wives and they put the suit on and go to work. And so they're not full time, and often when they do get a lot of hassle. I've had a lot of transphobia from the gay community.
Homophobia in
Yeah.
the gay community,
Yeah.
gays versus lesbians.
Oh yeah, and bi people.
Getting a gay pub after closing time, my God, it's
Yeah.
war zone, it really is.
Yeah.
I deal with one lady, she is selling her body, transgender female, she's selling her body on the street, she won't claim benefits, she won't go into a hostel, and she's going to die. She is going to die on the streets without it.
Definitely. I do think it would make a difference.
I think in some respects it's down to the education of the individual that's committing the offence. You hear lots of things, lots of discussions along the lines of people, by shouting something, just thinks it's harmless banter, or they just think, they're having a joke and stuff like that. Unless you actually sort of see the repercussions of your actions, then people tend to kind of just think that, it's okay to do. I'd actually be more concerned about the person that had been victimised in that incident, and I wouldn't want to put them in a vulnerable position. But if there was some other way of recording their story, and some sort of workshop that offenders could go on to sort of be made aware of the repercussions of their consequences of their actions, then that would be useful. But then there also needs to be some sort of follow-up as well, so that in the system, to make sure that they actually understand what has happened and what they have done.
That's the hard bit, because you would almost need to have victims of hate crime who were willing to put themselves in that position of being in a space or being filmed, and that film being shown to those that had made them feel the way that they'd felt in the first place. Obviously with Michael's situation, you couldn't have Michael sit here, but you could have that impact that family have had to go through and still live with on a day-to-day basis, which obviously is a massive, massive thing. But then to have alongside them someone who would be prepared to put them in that position of saying, well, yeah, I have had this happen to me, and I've survived it, and I've come out the other side, but this is how it made me feel, and this is how it's left me. That's the difficult bit.